Okay, so Ciri and Vesemir's journey is one that I haven't jumped into. The actual gameplay I have, but the story I haven't, so I would like to read it as it's disappearing pretty soon and I don't want to miss it. I'm going to go straight from the top and we're going to go all the way through this. Get comfy, have a nice drink, have a nice cozy blanket, and let's get comfy. I'm going to get started. Wait, I forgot about the mugs. Let me grab them from the saddle. Okay, back to the fire. Now, where do I start? There was so much of it, Uncle Vesemir. It's just hard to recall the first thing. Oh, I got it. It's not from our training or theory lessons, though. Do you remember the fairy tale about the tabby cat and the red fox? The one where hunters wanted to tear their fur off, make them into muffs? Of course you remember. How many times have you told it as a bedtime story to the kids of Kaer Morhen? Dozens? Hundreds? Even to Geralt, right? I just can't seem to imagine him as a child. Was he ever? Really? Okay, I know he had to be. Anyway, it was Geralt who told me this fairy tale when I was just little. Ugh, I didn't like it when the others would call me little back then, and now here I am doing it to myself. Well, that's the truth. I was little, and lost, and all alone. I'd fled from King Evelyn's men and his nasty son, Kistrin, whom I really didn't want to marry. I mean, his breath alone, ugh. Anyway, that's how I ended up lost in Broccolon Forest, and that's where I'd have died if it wasn't for Geralt. If he hadn't shown up out of nowhere and killed this overgrown centipede, oh, I know, not a centipede, but an Aegon, also known as a Scolopendromorph, first try. However, you must admit, even in the engravings, it looks just like an overgrown centipede. I mean, she's right. She is right. So, Geralt rescued me from the Aegon, and later, when I was lying on the forest floor with the stars blinking at us through the crowns of trees, unable to fall asleep, he told me your bedtime story about the cat and the fox hunted down by humans. In a way, despite not having met yet, it was the first lesson you gave me. It's pretty good, by the way. While escaping, it's usually better to act like a cat rather than try to be clever like a fox. Just quickly react without a second thought, without trying some 1,268 plots to outsmart the hunter. Do one, hop up the tree, run away, don't look back. Otherwise, you end like a piece of decorative fur, just like the little red muff. Week 2. Who shall we toast to? Geralt, cheers! Phew, that's strong. Waters of Broccolon strong, huh? You see, Uncle Vesemir, already then, which feels like an eternity ago, I realised that I was meant for him. When he was telling the story of the cat and the fox, I felt it clearly, this power binding us together even more than the strongest of blood ties. But he turned out to be too stubborn to believe it back then. Dumber than a child lost in the wilderness, you understand? Of course you do. I've heard you tell him how stupid he is yourself. Indeed, Uncle. But back to your first lesson, the fairy tale. You also used it as a bedtime story for me once. I woke up in the middle of the night, unable to sleep through those nightmares of mine, all alone in the dark. Suddenly I heard your voice. So warm and caring. The fear vanished at once, disappearing without a trace. You were telling the story differently from Geralt though, in more detail, yet not at all boring. That's why I never said anything. Sorry to admit, but in the end, this particular teaching turned against the teacher himself. Yes, you heard me right, against you. I was a bit of, even a very unruly child, but we both know you liked it really. Although in this case, I probably drove you crazy just a little. It was when the monster from Broccolon had already become a vague memory, the ugly Prince Kistrin completely forgotten, when Cintra had utterly ceased to be. The Witch's Keep became my home, and you, the big bad wolves themselves, were my family. Yes indeed, you know that very well. I guess I'm stalling, sorry. So, do you remember the time I slipped away? No, not the first nor the second. I'd already grown very fond of the place by this time. Sure, it wasn't much, a bed, a trunk, and that huge, filthy rat I killed and kept as a trophy, but I never felt more at home. It was far more the comforts of my chamber in Cintra, sure, but given a choice, I'd have chosen Kaer Morhen every time. So, why run away then, you ask? I'll tell you in a moment. I won't lie to you. Sounds very Welsh, Uncle Vesemir. Fear overtook me upon seeing Kaer Morhen for the first time, and I was scared as hell. When Geralt found me after Cintra's fall, this time to finally take me with him, I thought I would never feel fear again. that the worst was over, but instead of a home, I was in this dark, ruined castle full of rats and nightmarish echoes. I saw menacing black figures. I saw evil, incredibly shiny eyes staring at me, glowing in the dark. Suddenly, I heard your voice for the first time, warm and caring, and just like that, the fear had been vanquished. Black silhouettes became friends, protectors. Glossy eyes expressed curiosity. In fact, you all cared, so very much. But some things only you were able to care of. For instance, the leather jerkin you made for me was a little bit crooked. Well, okay, very crooked. Truth be told, it looked like the nightmare of any self-respecting tailor. But I still liked it, just as I liked the sword you forged me. Nobody in the keep, absolutely nobody, forgot about my training, not once. But only you remembered that a child, even one with my talents, needs proper clothing and a sword befitting her size. You really tried your best and I appreciated it. Maybe even too much. If I hadn't wanted to repay you so eagerly, maybe I'd have stayed on the trail, not run into the woods instead of sticking to my training. I just thought I'd be able to get back to the stronghold before anyone noticed my disappearance. You see, I'd heard a couple of times how much you wouldn't mind eating some venison. Sometimes you even mumbled under your breath, if only one of you younger witches could kindly go hunting, we could have a feast. But no, it's just beans and beans over and over again. Well, I was young and a witcher, kind of. So I thought it would be a splendid idea to fulfill your wish. There was only one small concern, that you may not quite acknowledge the accuracy of my reasoning, or worse, you'd have me polishing swords for the whole day after hearing it. Because you cared, of course, about me and the swords. That's why I decided it would be better to surprise you with the delicious boar. And I knew exactly where to find one. No, not at all. I didn't go for this boar completely unprepared. I made snares, alright? I admit it was no Talgar winter or even a wolf pit, just a simple trap. But it worked! Well, alright, it almost worked. It sprung, snap, crash. However, the boar could somehow still move. Then, the huge beast charged, and it's charged straight at me. Still, I didn't run away, Uncle Vesemir. I bravely raised my sword, which you fitted so well to my hand, and I boldly repeated everything you taught me during my training. Lunge, attack, repeat, half pirouette, blow, rebound. I balanced with one arm, cutting with the other, jumping over a slippery forest floor with roots reaching out from under the leaves. The boar didn't give a damn about my pirouettes. Someone could even have said that he reacted with admirable resistance. I stabbed his hairy rear at least once, but he didn't even grunt. Then, suddenly, he lifted his head, kicked up dirt, and pivoted, charging straight at me again. I stood my ground ready to fight. You'd have been proud. Attack, bounce, riposte, half pirouette, riposte, full pirouette, half pirouette, jump and cut. But the damn swine didn't even blink. He looked me straight in the eye, tenacious. What was I to do? My blows seemed ineffective, pointless even, like stabbing a sack of millet or a wooden log. But no, one must remain calm. Breathe. Keep going. You taught me that. Stay focused. Wait until the last possible moment to evade. Steady. Steady. Pirouettes! Unfortunately, that particular pirouette didn't work very well, and by that I mean, not at all. He hit me sideways, thwack, and I flew a good 20 feet into the air. I thumped my back against one of the trees, and the sword flew from my hand. And for a moment, Broccolon flashed before my eyes, together with the stars. The water rustled in my head, and one thought, escape. Run away like the cat from your story. Hop up a tree and don't look back. The boar was in no hurry. At first, he sniffed the sword lying in the dirt. Then he slowly raised his big, bulky head towards me. A small girl huddled in a tangle of branches. My ribs burned cruelly. Every breath spread through my body like dull, pulsating pain. He stood sentinel, this tenacious boar, staring, waiting calmly under the tree. I don't know how much time passed before he got bored, but it definitely was enough for you to notice my absence.